There's a fine line between courage and stupidity, and I need you guys to tell me which side of that light I'm on today. So now you know that the only thing you need to put a track back on a mini excavator is a 27mm wrench, a ratchet strap, and a 2x4. But I've got a bigger problem to solve now, and that is, what do I do with that standing dead tree? Hey, it's Brock here from Rock Hill Farm, and today we're going to take one of the excavators up on the hill and work on trying to widen the toughest part of the trail. I've widened out the far end and the near end, but the middle is where it's really tough. And I want to do it while I've got this largest excavator here. Should be a good challenge for it. This is a 3.5 ton Sunward mini excavator. It's a Chinese brand that is absolute premium quality. They line up right there with all the big names like a Bobcat or a Kubota, in my opinion, as far as the quality of the machine. I love having this thing, and I'm gonna hate to see it leave. It's done most of the work in rebuilding the pond here. I just love this so much, I've got to show it every chance I get. So I think when they brought this to me, it had like 3 or 4 hours on it. They said not to do more than 50 hours. I've put 26 hours on this one and less than that on the smaller one. We'll let it warm up for a minute and then head up. So you can see over here is the Sunward SWE 18UF. That's a 1.8 ton excavator. The difference between that size and this size is so dramatic when you get in it, and you can reach so much further with your boom. But that size there, that 1.8 ton, is very capable. And you can do a lot of work with a machine like that. I just love this size machine. Those are good for tight spaces, but I mean, you got so much more reach and power that this section here, I just widened the part right in front of us. If you guys follow the channel, you saw it a couple videos ago that I widened all of this out, and it's a big improvement, although it needs a little bit of grading. It needs some dirt brought up here. This next section up here is where I really need to widen out the most, and this is the hardest section to dig just because there's not much room on either side. I heard some popping, like I could have been losing a track, so I want to check that. I'm gonna lift the machine up in the air and get down and look. Talked a lot in that last video about losing tracks, and it's just something that happens. But if you hear it popping, that's when you lift it up and you check. Yep, this track right here is loose, and they're both pretty darn loose. So I need to leave this up in the air, go get some tools, get a grease gun, and raise these up or tighten these up. So I had this box delivered the other day from Mech Maxx. This is something that I have wanted for a long time, and I'm excited to have it. And I thought about making that video today, that unboxing and setup, but I'd really like to get something done on the trail. Tell you what, having this bighorn makes life a lot easier. It's a long walk to where the excavator's at. Come on, you know you want to. So in between this bottom roller here, my past experience with other machines is that you want no more than an inch of gap there. And pretty much when you get about that tight, it usually won't go anymore. Yeah, see, it stopped moving. It kept pumping, but it wasn't moving. And there's just enough room to stick my finger in there. So while we're still having this conversation about tracks, on that other machine, my complaint was, and I tried, to fix it in the second video, is that how often should these come loose? Now this track's pretty loose, but I've put like 23 hours on the machine and I have not touched this side yet. The other side, the track came off once and I had to put grease in it. But with what I was doing, I thought it was understandable that the track came off. I had it down in a hole and I was trying to turn to get up out. Okay, got about the thickness of a finger in there. Now you're supposed to grease the machine every 10 hours, and I greased this machine about 10 hours ago probably. It's due to be greased again, so I'll go ahead and do that. I'm not going to record myself hitting all these grease zerks, but there's a lot of them, and it's just part of the maintenance. And I would say normally every time you grease the machine is a good time to check the tracks. I was trying to save this little oak tree, but a lot of people were pointing out that having that right at the edge of the trail is a bad idea anyway. So I'm going to take that one out. And then as part of reshaping the angle of this trail, I want it to come like right through here instead of veering over and then up. And doing that will automatically widen it out. So I'm going to rip this little tree out. Then I'm going to start trying to push this stuff over. Then once I get it pushed over, we'll probably go up and start grabbing and throwing over. But we'll see how it goes. Now right here, what I'm doing right now, I'm on uneven ground. There's rocks everywhere. I'm trying to push and turn. This is the scenario where a machine should push a track off. Not it should, but if it does, I won't blame the machine. And I don't mean to keep harping on that, but I want to be fair. And that's what I was trying to say in those videos. When I started recording this video, I had no intention of talking about tracks at all. I didn't anticipate rolling the tracks off of the machine, and I didn't know the tracks were loose on the machine. But you guys saw what happened in real time. As I was driving up here, just driving it, I could tell the tracks were loose. But because they came off, this naturally becomes a conversation about tracks. So, I also want to talk about the way that I'm using this excavator. I also never bring this machine up here planning to push with it the way you see me pushing with it. I bring this machine up here to pick up these rocks and move them. But sometimes when I've already got a big pile like this, it just feels so much faster to push with it. So for you guys with a lot of experience running excavators, how much do you push with the excavator? Part of me wants to say this is not a machine used to push a pile of material, whether that's dirt or rocks or anything else. But it does have the big dozer blade on it, and it does a really good job of it. And I don't have any other machine that does as well pushing a pile. Now, a tractor could push some of this with a box blade, but believe it or not, there's just not room to get my tractor up here and work on this. It can't get turned into these spaces. So, the choice is to either pick up each rock individually or to use the excavator like a bulldozer to push material. So the conclusion that I come to is that I'm going to try to move most of the material with the boom, the way this machine is designed to be used. But there will be instances where I want to use the blade to push the pile. And doing that, pushing and tracking material in with this machine is what's going to drive the tracks off. If I didn't push into these piles or turn in the rocky ground, the tracks aren't going to come off. I might go back and watch the videos when I hired a really experienced equipment operator to grade out a pad in this rocky material using an excavator this same size and watch his technique and see if there's something I can learn about running this machine just from watching him. Because mostly everything I do is self-taught. But like this area here, after I get most of the rocks out, I've got this all grubbed up. I've got to track it in, and that means driving back and forth across uneven ground. And that's how I end up knocking my tracks off. All right, we'll flip around to the other side and start working our way up the hill now. I mean, I've doubled the width. This was like 6, 7 feet wide. I've literally doubled it. So we're almost to the point of the video where the track comes off. And this is the part where I'm trying to watch really closely and see if I did anything specifically wrong that would have made this come off. The other thing I was really curious about is, did the track loosen up first and then roll off, or did it just roll off? And I've got a pretty good clue for that, but we'll get to that in a minute. Now, in my previous video where I was complaining about a machine having the tracks roll off, the whole complaint in that video was that I was not working the machine hard, I was not on particularly rough ground, and I had only ran the machine for a short period of time. So it's relevant here to say how long I've been running it since tightening up the tracks. I'm playing some of this footage at 4 times speed and some of it at 8 times speed, but overall it's been about 35 to 40 minutes of real-time machine use since I tightened the tracks. And I'm also certain that part of the problem isn't just pressure against the tracks as you're turning and moving. It's also material getting up in between the track and the sprocket. I'm also well aware that tracks coming off is just a normal part of operating track machines. But I'm always trying to evaluate if I'm using best practices in what I'm doing or if there's anything I should be doing differently. I just realized for what this video is, I need to be recording what I'm doing. So yesterday I rolled the track off. This morning I came out here and I thought, before I put this back on, I'm gonna use the boom to turn the machine so that I can drive it down here on flat ground and make it easier to work on. It's less safe to do it up on the hill because whether you can tell it or not, this hill's fairly steep, and when you're lifting the machine up in the air and then you're trying to leverage the tracks and do whatever you're doing, it's better if you can do that on flat ground. So I'm gonna try to, first I'm gonna rotate the machine where it's straight up and down, and then I can drive it down the tracks without the track coming off, and then I'm gonna rotate it again, hopefully. I will say that generally, deer just went by like 10 feet from me. There's another one. I will say that normally, whenever this has happened, whether I was on a hill or in a crazy location, I've just stopped right there and put the track back on right there. But I'm thinking today, why not get on flat ground? So I'm gonna give it a try. If any of you guys are getting bored with this video and thinking about clicking off of it, and you have experience with standing dead trees, I'd love some feedback. So feel free to skip to the end and watch me try to push that tree out and tell me what you think of it. My first point of curiosity is, are these tracks loose? And obviously I can't tell with the other one because it's not in position. This one is still tight. So I've ran these 30 minutes since the track tensioning portion of the video. Now in theory, I wouldn't think a track would come loose after 30 minutes. A track also doesn't really have to be loose to come off. You can just have it in an awkward situation where there's there's pressure like right behind the nose roller, and then you turn and it just leverages itself off. That looks like what's happened. But let's get it back on, and I want to hear more of your thoughts in the comment section about the way I'm using the machine. Okay, let's see if this is the same wrench as a 27 millimeter. Yep, same wrench as the mini skid. So 99% of you probably know all about the track process, but for the people who don't, first thing you have to do is relieve pressure off the nose roller, which is tensioned by grease. As I take that loose, I can actually see the track sagging, and grease is squeezing out around the fitting. So that should be loose enough. We have to get this track back on one side or the other, and I've had people say different sides are better, and I've done it both ways. I think I put the track back on the sprocket side, because then when the sprocket turns, it can pull the track as you force it back on the other side. But I think if you get it loose enough, it doesn't really matter too much. So that's a good one to put in the comment section if you have experience with tracks. So which side do you prefer to put back on first? Oh yeah, that track is way loose now. Let's see if I can just lift one end. Ugh, I cannot. See, this is where the problem comes in. They're too heavy to just lift. All right, I'm gonna go get something. So what I decided to go get was a ratchet strap. Normally I bring a second machine up here and use the second machine to lift the tracks. We're gonna see if I can do that without doing that today, because not everyone, where they're at when they roll the track off, has access to a second machine. I'm hooking this strap around the track and then over to the boom. I thought I got my heavy duty straps, but these are not actually the heavy duty straps. And I'm not gonna go back down there. We'll give it a try. No, I don't think I hooked it right. Well, I mean, that might do it. I don't know. That's putting a little pressure on the bottom. I may use two straps. There's a little pop there. All right, let's see what we get here. Seems like it's working. So let's see if we can get it up close on that. So we still have all that track sag that needs to be pulled out, but that's getting close to popping on. I think I'm gonna let the slack out of this and then start over retensioning the ratchet strap. There we go. About to go on there. Let's take this one loose. Okay, so now the top one has done its job and needs to be taken loose, and the bottom one needs pressure on it. All right, the top is in, now the bottom's in. Now I'm gonna start the machine and just roll the track a tiny bit, and that will get that back on. I think I'll let the machine down just a little bit so that track can't sag as much. By letting the track down a little bit, I think it won't sag as much, and I can pull on it from the other end now. And now we're gonna stick this through, squeeze it up in between here. Now look how much sag that has. I like that. That's why it makes this a lot easier. If you think, well, it's got so much sag, it should be easy to put on. Those tracks are really heavy. And that's just all there is to it. If they weren't heavy, you would just take this loose, pick them up, and throw them back on. And you might be able to do that with some tiny little machines, but the bigger they get, the more that's not gonna work. I can't lift these tracks. So maybe you guys are gorillas and you just grab your tracks and throw them back on. I don't have it, I can't do it. All right, let's see if I still got enough grease in here to do this. Oh, she's a beaut, Clark. This is something I really like. I've been using this for months. Big Mule wipes. I picked it up at the local hydraulic shop. And if you have grease, hydraulic oil, engine oil, anything like that on your hands, one wipe, squeaky clean. Dry them a little bit on your Carhartts and good to go. I'll put a link in the video description where I can make money by you buying these. That's how those links in the video description that everyone places, that's how that works. So I'm pitching products that I think you should buy, but this is a good one. Not that expensive. Container lasts forever. So now I can go back to digging, but I've got a problem when I get right up here. So we're widening this all out, turning it into a freeway, which is great. But what about this tree? Standing dead, and I don't know if I can push it over with the machines I have. Maybe if I clear all the way around it, and it might not have anything to it, but I'd feel better about it if that was a living tree than a dead one, because with the way these rocks are on this hill, it may not be rooted very well. It may be rotten. I may push on it and it might snap in half and fall back at me. If you push on it here and it almost falls, but it doesn't, it can swing back and the top can fall on you. A lot of things can go wrong, and if I had a 6-ton excavator, I think I wouldn't feel that bad because I could sit further back. That 3-ton's got to get pretty close to it. So you're about to see me try to push on this tree that is right in front of the excavator because it's in the way. And I've got a choice to make with this tree and with a lot of other trees because I have tons and tons of standing dead trees on my property. And mostly they're in places that they don't hurt anything and they're not likely to fall on anybody, so it's not super dangerous. But taking them down can be pretty darn dangerous. Actually, incredibly dangerous if you don't do it properly or you don't have the expertise or the experience. So I'm trying to decide if I should mostly leave these or go ahead and take them down. And this one right now is in the way of my plans, but I could make other plans and work around it if I needed to. Now, if you're wondering why I have so many standing dead trees, I believe it to be a couple of factors. First, the root structure is limited compared to what it should be with how rocky the ground is here on these hills. The trees grew in these rocks, but they're not rooted as well as they should be. The next factor is I've been told there was a tornado that came through the area and went right through the middle of these woods, maybe 10 years before I bought the property. And then the third factor is controlled burning may have damaged the trees. So I have no intention of knocking this tree over today. What I want to do is think about knocking this tree over, ask your opinions, plan it out, dig all the way around it. But I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill. This thing might just fall right over. And so I'm going to give it just a little push, not a lot of force. I just want to see if that little push makes it move a lot, then it changes the problem. So I'm going to go over here and just give it a little push and see if it does anything. In terms of the size of the tree, I've got just enough reach to reach around it. So it's bigger than it probably looks on camera. It's a good 2-foot diameter, but I don't think it has much of a root system. Normally, I feel like I have a pretty good grasp for what's happening in front of me, but in this instance, I didn't realize how much the excavator was rising up, and I thought this tree was leaning a lot more than it is. I mean, I didn't think it was leaning to the point it was about to fall over, but I really felt like I was able to put a little bit of angle on it. And I'm trying to be gentle and go really slow, especially as I take pressure off of the tree so that it doesn't bounce and snap the top off and have it fall on me. So this footage is played at 4 times speed to tell you that I was being really gentle. Okay, I feel like I could very easily push that tree over. Just a little bit of digging right here and then push it over. But I want to read your comments and I want to watch that video clip. It's hard to tell from my seat, but I think it was leaning. I couldn't tell. So I'm gonna watch this back and I don't know. Tomorrow's video, I might push that tree over, or I might think about it for 2 more weeks. I don't know. Or I might just leave it there. So I want to hear what you guys have to say. That's going to wrap up this video. I appreciate you taking time to watch. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.